Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live and Ideas That Can Change Your World. Let's see if I can get this picture up here that I had on my camera, because it's a picture of, see if you can see it. Can you see that? Isn't that beautiful? That's a picture of my, I have a stained glass. We used to do stained glass. And a lot of the big pieces that we've done hang up. And one of my favorite is my tiger. And there's a poem. I wish I could engrave under it, but it's William Blake's poem, Tiger, Tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night. What hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? And I just saw Apocalypse Now yesterday, and if you watched my martini time last night, I've been high as a kite on this because I wanted to see it again. I hadn't seen it since 1979 when it came out. But I wanted to see it again in conjunction with Ken Burns' Vietnam, to get these two parallels going. You know, the historical line, the documentary line of history, which is Ken Burns. It's going along like that. The historical reporting of the war. And what's been interesting for me is that, I was in my late 20s during the 60s. I'm the second half of my 20s. And so I remember all of these events, but seeing them all at once has been quite a revelation to me, because in my memory, they're all spaced, at Kent State and all the different events, TET, and all those different events were spaced out like they are now. So it's kind of like when you watch the news, you see things along little dots here, and then it's here and here and here and here. And then particularly, I'm just thinking right now like Jon Stewart, when he would take the different points on Fox News and then he would put them all together and you would go, wow. So when you put something all together, the dots are not so far apart, and you see a whole. You see a gestalt that you don't see when the dots are, when there's so much space between the dots. When there's so much space between the events, you don't see the whole, because the space is filled up with other stuff. So you don't see, so it's all one continuum of history. Like with our own life, we see our life as a continuum of events, trivial and important. And so if there's a significant event here, there may be a whole bunch of other trivial crap between the next event. So we don't connect the dots in our life. We don't go, snap, we don't see the whole. So this is one thing with the Ken Burns thing, is that because I can see, a couple of years in 2 hours. So you take 2 hour show and he compresses all these events. And so there's a snapping, kind of like a seeing of the whole. Whereas before you just see the dots and you don't connect the pictures. And so I purposely watched Apocalypse Now, because movies are metaphors and metaphors are art. So we don't really see movies as art. Art is mythology. Art, and this is Joseph Campbell taught me so much, was that myth is metaphor and art is metaphor. Art, myth, metaphor. It's all vertical seeing through the horizontal. So the vertical dimension of myth and movie and metaphor creates that snap in which you can see all the dots connected into one gestalt, one whole. It's a real shock. It's a, I see. I didn't see before. I see the whole. Snap. And this was coming out in last night's Vietnam, Ken Burns. Kent State happened last night. And some of the veterans that have been unfolding their video journal, like Jake Sully in Avatar, there are several Vietnam veterans who are telling their story, and they come back to them. And all of them were idealistic, or two of them were idealistic soldiers. They went to Vietnam and they fought the good fight and they came back. And then the nation began to disintegrate into this angry, vicious, snarling catfight. And it kind of like erupted. And so the anti-war protests got violent with the weathermen, and these were like extremists on the far end, of the left. And people still refer back to that like alt left. This was a real, talk about terrorists. They were bombing stuff all over the place, but it wasn't. I remember that, they were blowing up stuff all over, just like it was a real terrorist organization. But it was the violent extreme of this violent split in America, and Nixon was appealing to the silent majority. Remember that? The silent majority who wanted law and order. So anyway, when Kent State happened, you remember that? Oh, it's 1970, 1969, 1970. Anyway, it was a peaceful demonstration, and they called out these kids. No, there were kids demonstrating, and the National Guard were kids. They called them out, and they gave them live bullets. And somebody ordered them, or somebody somehow, I don't know, ordered them to fire. And they shot 4 people, killed 4 people. Classic video, or classic picture, iconic picture, just like the iconic picture of Vietnam, of the South Vietnamese officer shooting the Viet Cong in the head in the town square, bam. And then you had the iconic image of the dead student and the girl crying over him. What the fuck happened? What is this? And so our 2 Vietnam veterans doing their video journal, you see, said something snapped. Something snapped, and they saw the whole picture, and they became politicized. Snap, they became politicized. In other words, the ambiguity ended, and they became one. You see, this terrible ambiguity of I and it, who am I? Back, forth, what is true? I don't know. Bam, snap, one. And that's what in Apocalypse Now, I watched that yesterday morning, and I swear this thing has been going off in me like a Mr. Coffee. It just keeps brewing and brewing and brewing. I meditate in the morning for an hour, and the movie, I was in that movie again for the hour, trying to get the snap. Oh, when I was writing about it yesterday, if you go to my Facebook, you'll see in my blog, tokillaminotaur.com, I wrote a review on it. And as I was writing that, I had a snap in that I suddenly saw the thing begin to pop together. And that's what a movie does, that because a movie is full of symbolism. So there's the movie, that's the metaphor and the myth of the movies, these great movies, that they are a documentary on one sense. They are about visible, external, objective, linear history, but at the same time, there is this snap of a bigger picture that includes me. See, when we watch the movie, there's an I, and I'm sitting in the audience eating popcorn, watching the movie It, you see. But if the movie snaps, je suis the movie. Je suis Captain Willard. Je suis Jake Sully. And I keep coming back to this. When the snap happens, and the snap can't happen unless you let go of your belief in the movie as something external to you. Oh, it's just a movie. But to talk about the movie as you requires a letting go of the movie as an it. And this is our culture. Our culture is an I-it culture. The Vietnam movie, the Vietnam War, the I was us Americans and the it was the gooks. And we were there to shoot the its. They weren't people, they were just its. You see, the I, American, the culture, the cowboys were there to shoot the its. The split. And so this creates a wound. This creates a tear, a wound that can't heal. And so our hero, Captain Willard in Apocalypse Now, the movie begins with him wounded. He's lying on the bed. In the movie, he's upside down. You see him upside down. And he's looking at the overhead ceiling fan. And he can't tell if it's a helicopter or a fan. And he says, when I'm home, I wish I was here. When I'm here, I wish I was home. So he's in that dark night of the soul. He's where in Avatar, Jake Sully's saying, I don't know. He was in a no man's land. And he said, I don't know if the sky people is real or Navi is real. Which is the dream, which is real. We wake up in the morning, and sometimes there's a moment where I don't know if the dream I was in is the real, and now I'm waking up into a dream, or if I'm waking up and the dream was a dream. I'm in that, I don't know which was the dream, which is real. I think we've all had that experience. There's that moment where we don't know what's real and what isn't real. And so that was the Vietnam historically. I mean, there's the experience of people having that. What is real here? The idealistic young 19-year-old soldier going to fight communism and have his heroic war, you see. And they go there, and the first thing they do is light a match to a Vietnamese hut and the screaming kids and everything down there. You know, what is going on here? You know, so this question of questioning reality, this questioning of the reality I believe in is kind of like the death of Santa Claus, our first death, our first mythic death. I come back to this again and again because for the child, it's like a death of innocence, you know, like, oh, Santa Claus. And so for a couple of years, wow, you know, Santa Claus begins now before Halloween. We can't wait. It'll be 4th of July pretty soon before you have Santa in Walmart or in the mall. But the whole idea of the Santa Claus myth, and then it's around 6 or 7, bam, Santa Claus shot. You know, well, sorry kid, it wasn't really real. Grow up. That's the real world, you know. So anyway, I digress. But the point is here that last night in Vietnam, there was this Kent State snap that politicized a lot of people. And this happens today with the, quote, terrorists, where you have some person or people who, who second generation Muslims, and they're going to school here or something, and then suddenly there's a snap, you know, and suddenly now they're politicized. Or, that snap is a healing of the ambiguity. People that go shoot themselves. Or become a mass shooter. there seems to be a snap where the wound is healed by this idea. I can get out of the torture of the ambiguity of my split self by killing myself, and it seems very. That's it. That's the solution. You see, that, as a matter of fact, there was one of the video journalists, or one of the vets, Vietnam vets, being interviewed, described a picture where, caught in this ambiguity, this terrible wound, you see, this terrible wound of a split self. I don't know what's real. Is it this or that? I can't be there. I can't be here. I can't stand this. I can't live here, and I can't not live here. This absolute torture of being caught in a double bind where no matter what you do, you can't get out. So so he was going to shoot himself, and he had the gun, and he took the safety off. And it seemed like a good idea. I can get out of this pain. It seemed like a good idea. And then the dog had to come in. So he wet the gun down and went to let the dog in. And the dog was so happy to see him that he went back and put the gun in the drawer. So that was such a simple thing, but it was so for the love of his dog, he didn't kill himself. And so the moment passed. So the movie Apocalypse Now, to me, is a snap. But the hero has a snap. So the hero, played by Martin Sheen, Captain Willard, he's in an ambiguous state of what's real, and he keeps saying, I need a mission. And he's just drinking, and he's going insane. He hits the mirror and bloods his hand, and the military officers come with their orders, and he says, I'm ready, what have I done wrong, And so they said, no, you have a mission. I have a mission. So they haul him in and give him a shower, and they save him from the self-destruction, and he has a mission. So what's the mission? Well, you have to go up to the headwaters into in Cambodia and terminate this rogue general who is dropped out of the army. He's dropped out of civilization, and he's gone rogue. We don't know what he's doing. So that begins the adventure to the headwaters. And he goes through, it was like Dante's Inferno, going through these different scenes of total insanity, going through these scenes of hell. And Willard is focused. He's got one single purpose, to get to the headwaters, and he's attracted to this Captain Kurtz. He wants to meet him. I want to confront him. I want to know him. And he reads these orders about him and his history and all that. So there's something that's compelling him to meet him. And so that's what pulls his little boat through all these scenes of total insanity. And he finally gets to the headwaters. And it's kind of like going through into a zombie land. I mean, the people that are held in trance by this. And Marlon Brando plays the colonel. Kind of like a Buddha. I mean, it was a lot of these Buddhist statues, because this was ancient Cambodian temple he was in, was full of these huge Buddha faces, like this primeval consciousness, this consciousness that's prior to civilization, this oneness of consciousness that has been split by civilization, by Western civilization, has split the one consciousness into a ambiguous ego and the it, you see. So culture, Western culture, us, has been divided against itself. And this begins our spiritual path. I know this began my path, this feeling of being divided against myself and against the world. And that is our culture. Our culture today is divided against itself. But it's not an objective division. The culture is a reflection of our internal division. And this is the myth and the magic of movies as myth, because the movie makes us connect my consciousness with the external world as one, which is what Jesus talked about. I and the world are one. My little bell rang. So anyway, I'm going to be writing about this today, about the tiger. And in the movie, I think this tiger catches my fascination, because there was a scene in the movie where Willard and one of the crew members, were walking in this primeval jungle, and he was looking for mangoes. And the crew member was just roof brain chattering, just talk, oblivious to where he was. And Willard was very alert. He's always very alert, looking, aware, watching. And he hears something. And the crew member stops chattering, and they look. And they're standing there in the silence. And suddenly this tiger leaps out at him and freaks the crew member out. He can't, he just goes crazy. And I thought about that. And then Willard says, don't get out of the boat. Don't get out of your culture, or you'll meet the tiger. And then I thought of William Blake, tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night. What immortal hand do I frame this symmetry? And then to conclude with Captain Kurtz, who Brando's Buddha, death character, said, you can kill me, but don't judge me. Don't judge the tiger. So anyway, I hope I don't ramble too much here, but as I come and give these talks and share this with you, I'm connecting dots as we go. So thank you for dropping in.